O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, that we may seek it with wisdom, know it with certainty, and accomplish it perfectly, for the glory and honor of thy name and for the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory. Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oite, Dene, Tsuut'ina, Neothorc nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making, and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Please be seated. Routine proceedings, private member, orders of the day, private members' business. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Good morning, Honourable Speaker. Could you please call from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Bill 300, the Winnipeg Foundation Act, and from 10:30 to 11 a.m. Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act, commemoration of days, weeks, months amended.
It has been announced that we will proceed with second reading of Bill number 300, the Winnipeg Foundation Amendment Act, from 10 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. We will then move on to second reading of Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act, commemoration of days, weeks, and months act amended. We will now go to second reading of Bill 300. The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
I move, seconded by the MLA for Transcona, that Bill number 300, the Winnipeg Foundation Amendment Act, loi modifiant la loi sur la fondation dénommée the Winnipeg Foundation, be now read a second time and be referred to a committee of the House.
Been moved by the Honourable Member for St. Boniface, second by the Honourable Member for Transcona, that Bill number 300, the Winnipeg Foundation Amendment Act, be now read a second time and be referred to a committee of this House. The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's an honour to move this bill, Bill 300, the Winnipeg Foundation Modernization Act. I'd like to take this opportunity by, first of all, setting the stage for this bill by recognizing that the Winnipeg Foundation is actually the oldest foundation in Canada and also the largest foundation in Canada. In 1921, actually, the Winnipeg Foundation, thanks to generations of thoughtful donors, has improved life in our city through gifts with us. William Forbes Alloway, a prominent banker, established the Winnipeg Foundation in 1921 with the gift of $100,000. Alloway established Canada's first community foundation and fulfilled his vision of an organization built by everyday Winnipeggers that will support our community forever. The second gift to the foundation, an anonymous donation of 3 gold coins worth $15 at the time, is a reminder that every act of generosity, no matter the dollar amount, makes a difference. Thousands of people from all walks of life have followed in these donors' footsteps. The collective power of their generosity has resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars invested in local charitable projects that help individuals thrive, strengthen families, and build our community. And since 1921, I'd like to take a few moments to actually go through some of the most notable benchmarks of the Winnipeg Foundation, such as in 1922, when the foundation makes its first grant of $6,000, equally shared by the Margaret Scott Nursing Home, Knowles Home for Boys, Victorian Order of Nurses, and the Children's Hospital and the Children's Aid Society. In 1937, the foundation received memorial gifts for the first time. In 1950, during the flood, the Community Reserve Fund, billed through surplus funds from 1945 to 1949, supports flood efforts here in Winnipeg. 1952, the Children's Hospital receives a large grant to address the polio outbreak, which was predominant at the time. In 1972, the assets of the Winnipeg Foundation exceed $10 million. In 1981, the assets exceed $20 million. In 1996, the assets exceed $100 million. And in 2003, the foundation makes the largest grant in our history, $6 million to the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. I think that's very notable. In 2012, cumulative total grants surpassed $300 million with the assets of the Winnipeg Foundation in 2012 at $500 million. In 2018, the foundation commits $1 million to help organizations work towards our shared goal of reconciliation in our community with a new reconciliation grants program. In 2019, cumulative grants total $500 million. And in 2021, the foundation celebrates its 100th anniversary. So now, Honorable Speaker, in 2025, the Winnipeg Foundation seeks to modernize its act. In fact, the Winnipeg Foundation should be representative of all Winnipeggers and Manitobans. The foundation wants to create a community for all, and this is why it's important that the foundation remains current in the work that it does so it can continue to meet the unique needs of each community. These amendments will support the Winnipeg Foundation in its modernization and accessibility efforts. Removing the mayor from the board will support the foundation in its goal of being as apolitical and as inclusive and diverse as possible. Digitizing their financial recordings will allow the foundation to be more accessible to the people of Winnipeg by reaching more people electronically. So, the Winnipeg Foundation Act is amended in two ways. The mayor of the City of Winnipeg is no longer required to be a member of the board of directors of the foundations, allowing for more inclusivity and other members to join the board. Audit information about the foundation's financial statements must be published on its website. Currently, information respecting the audit must be published in a newspaper, and copies of the auditor's report must be provided on request. And the goal of the Winnipeg Foundation is simply to be more transparent and reach more Winnipeggers and Manitobans. So we all want the people of Winnipeg and across Manitoba to thrive in their communities and feel like they are part of one Manitoba. And the Winnipeg Foundation has been a pioneer in helping make this a reality, Honorable Speaker. The Winnipeg Foundation has put community at the foremost for over 100 years and has grown to be one of the biggest foundations, not just in Winnipeg, but in Canada. By promoting philanthropy, creating partnerships, and supporting diverse charitable organizations, the Winnipeg Foundation aims to be a leader in strengthening community well-being. The foundation shares important values with our government, supporting families, helping them thrive, and building our communities. The foundation wants to create a community for all, and this is why it is important that the foundation remains current in the work that it does so it can continue to meet the unique needs of each community. So, Honorable Speaker, communities develop and change over time. Winnipeg's population has increased exponentially, and with that, the city has grown to be a beautiful, diverse, and cultural mosaic. Established in 1921, the Winnipeg Foundation is the oldest foundation at over 100 years old, and it has historically adapted to the city's evolving communities. The Winnipeg Foundation Act was amended in 1943, 1980, 1990, 2004, and again in 2011. These proposed amendments to the Act will support the Foundation in the changes in their methods of governance so that Their board can be as representative of all Winnipeggers as possible. So, Honourable Speaker, how do we achieve this? We achieve this with a more inclusive board at the Winnipeg Foundation. Removing the mayor from the board will support the foundation in its goal of being as apolitical and as inclusive and diverse as possible. The Winnipeg Foundation Board aims to be as apolitical as possible, and as we all know, the mayorship is a political position. The Winnipeg Foundation Board also tries to be as inclusive and diverse as possible. The board of the foundation aims to achieve gender parity and include as many communities from Winnipeg as possible. The board also seeks specific skill sets from those in the legal, accounting, cultural, or linguistic communities and beyond. Winnipeg, as we know, is a wonderful, diverse, and multicultural city. So by removing the mayor from the board of the Winnipeg Foundation, it allows for more representation from Winnipeg's mosaic of cultures. These amendments will support the Winnipeg Foundation in its modernization and accessibility efforts. Digitizing their financial records will allow the foundation to be more accessible to the people of Winnipeg. Currently, audit information about the Winnipeg Foundation's financial statements must be published in a newspaper, and copies of the auditor's report must be provided on request. These amendments will require that audit information about the Foundation's financial statements be published on its website. Winnipeg is home to over 850,000 people, Honourable Speaker, and not all of them read the newspaper. So publishing their financials on their website will actually make it more accessible to Winnipeggers and Manitobans. It will also help people learn more about the incredible work the Winnipeg Foundation does every year to better our community. Lastly, Honourable Speaker, I hope that everyone gets behind this bill. It's important to support the Winnipeg Foundation. It's important to support our communities here in Winnipeg, and it's very important to help the Winnipeg Foundation move into its future, supporting our communities by moving this bill into the future as well. Thank you, miigwech. Merci, Honourable Speaker.
A question period of up to 10 minutes will be held. Questions may be addressed to the sponsoring member by any member in the following sequence. First question to be asked by a member from another party. This is to be followed by a rotation between the parties. Each independent member may ask one question. No question or answer may exceed 45 seconds. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie.
Good morning. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Has the member or the government consulted on the removal of the mayor from the board of directors with the City of Winnipeg and the current mayor and councillors?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for that excellent question, Honourable Speaker. So I am sponsoring this amendment in partnership with the Winnipeg Foundation, which it has consulted with the mayor. The lawyers of the Winnipeg Foundation have consulted with the City of Winnipeg, and the City of Winnipeg is agreeable to these amendments. Thank you. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Portage, the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Can the member of St. Boniface elaborate on what it was that inspired them to introduce this bill that amends the act related to the Winnipeg Foundation?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for the excellent question. The Winnipeg Foundation, of course, being the oldest foundation in Canada, wants to make sure that its act is progressive, that it's up to date, and that it is flexible with the changing needs of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. So by making its board more diverse, that's a great step into the future. And by digitizing its reportings, its financial report, also makes its financials more accessible to all Manitobans. And removing the mayor actually allows the board diverse and less apolitical. Thank you. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Will the mayor be able to appoint someone to the board to represent the mayor's office and the City of Winnipeg?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
That's an excellent question. The goal of the Winnipeg Foundation is to remain as apolitical as possible and have a diversity of Winnipeggers on the board, as well as a diversity of skill sets from all trades, all backgrounds, including the business community. So I think that the goal of the Winnipeg Foundation is to represent all Winnipeggers, and that in doing so, we'll have links with the larger conversation of Winnipeg and governments as well. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Winnipeg Foundation has a great reputation and a great relationship with the community as a whole. Could the member explain to us how the changes they're suggesting would improve that connection to community?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for that excellent question. One of the goals of the Winnipeg Foundation is to make sure that its board is, first of all, inclusive of all communities, whether they be cultural communities, linguistic, etc. The goal of the Winnipeg Foundation also wants to have parity on its board. And let's be honest, the Winnipeg Foundation was, founded at a time in 1922 when not all Manitobans and not all Winnipeggers, not all voices were heard around the board table. It's 2025. The Winnipeg Foundation wants to make sure that all of those voices that perhaps were not heard in the past, are now heard today. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. What is the current makeup of the Board of Directors, and who is currently required to be on the board?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
So as I've mentioned earlier, and thank you for that question, the Winnipeg Foundation is one of the largest foundations in Canada. I believe their assets exceed $2 billion now. So what they're looking for is, a number of skill sets, including, people that have a certain expertise in the financial world. They're looking to seek parity on their board right now, which is not the case. And they're also seeking to have more diversity on their board. As we know, Winnipeg has grown exponentially in the last, 10, 20, 30 years. So it's important to have all voices around the table to make sure that when we look at the diversity around the table, at the Winnipeg Foundation, around the board table, we see the diversity that we see in Winnipeg as well. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd like to ask the member how the dynamic between the Winnipeg Foundation and the Mayor's office, in the absence of the Mayor as a mandatory member of the Foundation, how that dynamic would change with this bill.
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for that question. I believe the goal of the Winnipeg Foundation is for that dynamic to actually improve. The Winnipeg Foundation over the years has been successful in supporting, a number of, marginalized communities in Winnipeg, all communities. And by making sure that that work is objective and based on facts and based on census information and whatnot, by making informed decisions such as those, I think that that's going to strengthen the support of communities in Winnipeg. And I think the Mayor will be happy to see that the Winnipeg Foundation is there to support all communities in Winnipeg.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. A question for the member. How does the bill change the current reporting requirements for audit reports of the Foundation? Thank you.
Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for that question. So currently, the financial reports, the annual financial report of the Winnipeg Foundation has to be published in a paper. Unfortunately, as we know, we are in the digital age, and not all Winnipeggers or Manitobans, for that matter, can access that report through the paper. So the hope of the Winnipeg Foundation is to make the reporting digitized and accessible through the internet and through their website so that more people can have access to it, therefore making their work more transparent. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Can the member for St. Boniface explain how these proposed changes will support the Winnipeg Foundation and stay more current in the work that it does for our community?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you for that excellent question. By ensuring that board members sitting around the table are more inclusive and representative of all of our communities here in Winnipeg, I think the Winnipeg Foundation will be able to have a greater impact with all of those communities that perhaps in the past didn't have their voice heard around the table, or perhaps in the past did not have access to some of the programs the Winnipeg Foundation were presenting simply because they weren't as well represented as we hope that it will be in the future. Thank you.
The honourable member for La-Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Can the member tell us more about how he came up with the bill, and did he consult with the Winnipeg Foundation, and were they the ones who had made these suggestions?
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Well, I'd like to thank the member for that excellent question. So first of all, for 8 years, I was actually a board member of Francophone, which is the largest Francophone foundation here in Manitoba. And through that work, I had the chance to work with Endow Manitoba, which is actually a wing of the Winnipeg Foundation that aims at supporting all 56 foundations here in Manitoba. So when I was elected as an MLA, when the Winnipeg Foundation reached out for looking for someone to basically sponsor this bill, I was more than happy to do that work. And yes, I did consult with the Winnipeg Foundation. I sat down at their board table. Their lawyers were present, and I'm very happy to do so. Thank you.
The honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the member having to keep repeating his answers on consultation when opposition keeps asking the same questions. So I hate to repeat anything that's already been said, but since this is probably the last question, I'll encourage the member to fill the time with sharing a bit more with us about how these proposed changes support the Winnipeg Foundation in strengthening its transparency with the community as a whole.
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
The goal of the Winnipeg Foundation is to be as inclusive and as transparent as possible moving forward. With assets of over $2 billion, with the great needs of groups that are coming to the Winnipeg Foundation for support, the Winnipeg Foundation wants to make sure that the voices of all communities in Winnipeg are heard and supported. We know that the work of building community is not always easy, and we know that since the pandemic, a lot of our groups here in Winnipeg need help more than ever. So the Winnipeg Foundation wants to strengthen the work they do, wants to go even further in supporting communities, and we encourage the work that we do, and we look forward to another great 100 years with the Winnipeg Foundation here as a great community leader. Thank you.
The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Can the member please, you're required that the audit information must be published in the newspaper. Which newspaper and what information in particular is required to be published? Thank you.
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
So I believe that up until now, the financial audit of the Winnipeg Foundation is published in the Winnipeg Free Press. Not everyone reads the Winnipeg Free Press, so the Winnipeg Foundation wants to ensure that its audit is accessible to more people in Winnipeg. We know the population of Winnipeg now is upwards of 850,000 people, so the Winnipeg Foundation wants to be more accessible, more transparent, more inclusive, and wants to have more Winnipeggers engaged in its financials by making them available online. Thank you.
The time for questions has expired. The floor is now open for debate. The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. It brings me great pleasure to speak a little bit about the Winnipeg Foundation, as I was an appointed member of the Portage-La Prairie N District Foundation. One of the things that we struggled with the Portage-La Prairie Foundation was the question of getting involved with different types of projects that might be classified as public money or private money coming into a public situation. And again, I don't see in this where that has been reported, and we are seeing foundations like the Winnipeg the Winnipeg Health Science Foundation, the St. Boniface Foundation as well too, being involved in improvements to the hospitals that they're dealing with or purchasing equipment like the Portage Hospital Foundation as well too. But the question comes into, is that private money going into a public project? So again, with the introduction to the Winnipeg Foundation, it was established in 2021. It was created to help address community needs in Winnipeg. And over the years, it's grown into one of the largest community foundations in Canada. And again, there is so much great work that is done by community foundations out there. The foundation operates with the philosophy for good forever, meaning it seeks to support community today and into the future, which is so important, again, when we are dealing with different people and different situations out there. You know, its mission is to connect donors with causes that matter, supporting a wide range of charitable initiatives that improve the quality of life in Winnipeg. And again, like a lot of other foundations throughout the province, again, I think this test will show, you know, whether foundations are contributing to public projects or just to private projects. Values include community leadership, accountability, inclusiveness, and collaboration. The foundation strives to be a trusted steward of the community assets and a proactive partner in community betterment. The foundation pools and invests donations in a permanent endowment fund. So again, some foundations are set up a little differently, that some can only spend a certain amount of interest. Some are set up as endowment funds where they can be used for certain projects only, where it could be, you know, a project to do with kids or that. So the income earned from the fund is then granted out annually to support charitable projects. I know in talking about the Winnipeg Foundation or the Portage Foundation, it is very important that we look at different things that the foundations are most important for. I know in Portage La Prairie, one of the things that we did was help during the Manitoba Senior Games of including a larger track for our facility as well too. So donors can create their own funds to contribute existing ones, and the capital is never spent, only the investment income is used for grants. I know we're dealing with some issues in Portage La Prairie right now regarding the granting, because a lot of
please. As previously announced, we will now be moving on to private members' note, the second reading of Private Members Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act. The honourable member for Portage La Prairie will have 6 minutes remaining when this is again before the House. Just before moving on, there are some guests in the gallery. We have seated in the public gallery Lieutenant Colonel David Cronk, Lieutenant Colonel Jack Neugen, Chief Warrant Officer Eric Leclerc from the Canadian Forces Base at Shiloh, and they are guests of the Honourable Minister, Municipal Northern Relations, and the Honourable Member for Waverley. We welcome you here today. Now, as previously announced, we will move on to second reading of Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks and Months Act amended. The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, seconded by the MLA for Radisson, that Bill number 218, the Climate Action Month Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks and Months Act amended, Loi sur les mois de lutte contre les changements climatiques, modifiant de la loi sur les journées, les semaines et les mois commémoratifs, be now read a second time and be referred to a committee of this House.
Been moved by the Honourable Member for St. Boniface, seconded by the Honourable Member for Radisson, that Bill number 218, the Climate Action Month Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks and Months Act amended, be now read a second time and be referred to a committee of this House. The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise today to speak in regards to Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act. But before, I would like to wish everyone a happy Earth Day across all 5 continents where, humans live across the planet, all 8 billion or so of us. I think it's important that we recognize that this planet that we live on is beautiful, it's blue, it's special. And before I move on to speaking about Earth Day and before I speak about the Climate Action Month, I'd like to just for a moment set the stage. As an Indigenous person, as a Red River Métis, every morning when I get up and I see the sunrise, I reflect on the fact that we are incredibly lucky to live on this little blue planet, which happens to be just at the right spot in our solar system, not too close to the sun, like Venus or Mars, and not too far away from the sun. And we live in what's called the Goldilocks zone, which allows life on Earth to actually be able to strive. Planet Earth is over 4.5 billion years old, and we've seen life come and go on Earth. 200 million years ago, 95% of all life on Earth was wiped out, we think by massive volcanic eruptions. 65 million years ago, all life on Earth was nearly wiped out because of an asteroid. And now, where we are in our history, at this present time, life on Earth is once again threatened. And we as humans, and in fact, every living species on this planet right now is facing dire times because of climate change. And in fact, I was also reflecting on the fact that, on planet Earth, if you look at the lowest point of the planet, the Mariana Trench, to the tallest point of the planet, Mount Everest, we're looking at about 20 kilometers. And where do we live in that 20 kilometers? We live in about 2 kilometers of what's called the troposphere. And that's where oxygen is actually, at allowable levels for us to breathe, for us to be able to support life on Earth, for us to be able to, live a good family life, community life, have a good economy, have friends, enjoy our time off, as we did just last weekend. And all of that happens on the 3rd planet in our solar system. So, coming back to what this act gains at doing, and in fact, what Earth Day actually aims at doing, being April 22nd, the purpose of Earth Day is to teach people simple strategies to conserve energy and participate in environmental conservation, and demonstrate how easy it is to conserve energy without causing any inconveniences. And I hope I'm not causing any inconvenience to the members opposite who are heckling me right now and, laughing and cheering me on and, reflecting on that we're on like the 3rd planet, in our solar system, which is great. But Honourable Speaker, every year in Canada and across the world, we recognize April 22nd as Earth Day, as we should. The day for us to reflect on the importance of preserving our environment. This bill, Honourable Speaker, Bill 218, would extend the spirit of this day to the entire month of April, ensuring that we raise awareness on the impact of climate change on our environment and encourage everyone to protect our planet. And I want to talk about climate change for a second, because what's interesting with climate change is that we are seeing some places on Earth becoming unlivable, too hot. During the winter, we're seeing our Gulf Stream our jet stream actually collapsed. And a few years ago, the jet stream collapsed so much that, Arctic air extended all the way down to Texas, and there were fatalities, and their electrical system almost failed because of climate change. Every human on Earth will be severely impacted by climate change as it threatens not only our water, air, and land, but affects our vital infrastructure and our communities. Speaking of infrastructure, 2016 in Alberta, there were fires. And in fact, if you look at, the oil-producing city capital of Alberta, Fort McMurray, people were fleeing for their lives. I reflect here in Manitoba in 2022, Manitoba was ablaze. In 2023, Canada saw the worst forest fires in its history. And just last summer, we saw Jasper in Alberta, 50% of Jasper wiped out because of climate change and forest fires. So, Honorable Speaker, it's up to all of us to take collective action to stop climate change, and we must act now. With this bill and the help of every Manitoban, we can work together to save our planet for generations to come. So, Honorable Speaker, Bill 218, the Climate Action Month Act, recognizes that the time to take action is now. Climate change is an imminent threat to the future of our planet. So let's take action. And the purpose of this bill is as follows. Whereas climate change has contributed to alterations in precipitation and weather patterns, increasing the frequency of severe floods, drought, and wildfires, and whereas climate change has a negative impact on Manitoba, contributing to adverse weather events and detrimental changes to agriculture, biodiversity, and human health, and whereas climate change threatens the ability of Indigenous peoples to exercise their rights, customs, and traditions, and whereas climate change affects permafrost and ice by causing thinning and thawing, which impacts the winter road network in Manitoba, and undermines safe transportation to remote and northern communities, and whereas climate change requires action from all levels of government and the collaboration of urban, rural, Indigenous, and northern communities, and whereas many Manitobans have voiced their support for action to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and to adapt to climate change, and whereas Earth Day recognizes the importance of protecting the environment and is observed annually in Canada and in many other countries on April 22nd, and whereas Manitoba is committed to reducing the impact of climate change through the production of clean energy and initiatives to protect biodiversity, and whereas observing Climate Action Month will promote awareness of the impacts of climate change and the need for collective action to protect the environment for future generations, we would like to proclaim the goal of Bill 218 is to proclaim April as Climate Action Month. Because, Honorable Speaker, climate change is now. Climate change is a threat that is already on our doorsteps. Scientists have been warning leaders across the globe about the impending devastation that can be caused by climate change if we don't act now. Climate change affects more than just the temperature. There will be more severe thunderstorms, increased risks of drought, warming and rising oceans, increased risks of poverty for coastal communities and nations, and puts all species at risk. If we don't act now, we'll have to pay for this in the future. And Honorable Speaker, in closing, I'm a father of two. I have one daughter who's in environmental studies at the University of Winnipeg because she fears for the future. I have another daughter who's studying biology at the University of Winnipeg. We often say that, our youth are our future, and the future is now. We know that Manitobans are worried about climate change. We know that farmers are worried about crop predictability. We know that, Canadians and Manitobans are worried about the air they breathe. And we don't know what the summer fire season is going to look like. So I hope that everyone including members opposite, can support this bill. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Prior to moving on to the question period for this bill, we have some guests in the gallery that I'd like to introduce. We have seated in the public gallery from Dufferin Christian School, 15 grade 9 students under the direction of Marcia Bultina. The group is located in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Midland, and we welcome you here this morning. Now, a question period of up to 10 minutes will be held. Questions may be addressed to the sponsoring member by any member in the following sequence. First question to be asked by a member from another party. This is to be followed by a rotation between the parties. Each independent member may ask one question. No question or answer may exceed 45 seconds. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Well, good morning, Honourable Speaker, and I would certainly like to thank my honourable friend across the way for his passionate speech about Bill 218 this morning. I'd like to ask my friend which organizations and environmental authorities he consulted with on Bill 218.
Great question.
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you for that question. We consulted with the Aboriginal Council of Winnipeg, Assembly of First Nations, Bike Winnipeg, Biz for Climate, Climate Action Network Canada, Climate Change Connection, Climate West, consulted with the City of Winnipeg, Indigenous Chamber of Commerce, Lake Winnipeg Foundation, Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium, and let's be clear, all Manitobans are worried about climate change. Farmers are worried about crop predictability. Northern communities are worried about forest fires. Communities in the south are worried about drought. So yes, we did consult. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, the failed PC government refused to even say the words climate change is real. Even today, they heckle me, and they've heckled the member opposite, or the member for St. Boniface. They've laughed at the idea of talking about climate change in this hallowed chamber, Honourable Speaker. While climate is changing, so must we. That's why we've been working hard to make sure that our government is prioritizing the environment and the future of Manitoba. With how many different environmental initiatives we are taking, my question for my colleague is, what's their favorite environmental initiative our government has undertaken?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Well, one of my favorite ACT initiatives is our goal to transitioning 5,000 homes in Manitoba to geothermal heating. In fact, I've had geothermal in my house since 2007. Honourable Speaker, we lifted up the home, we put a new foundation in, and we put a geothermal system. So the lovely thing about the geothermal system is that it gives me nice, consistent, even heat all year long, cools my house during the summer, and I pay 60% less than members opposite on my hydro bill. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I want to wish my colleagues and, of course, all the Manitobans a happy Earth Day today. Honourable Speaker, my question to the member would be, what would the benefits be to Manitobans if a Climate Action Month were proclaimed and recognized every April, seeing as how Earth Day already exists during the same month?
Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for that excellent question. So yes, we recognize Earth Day today, but we also know that climate change faces our species in a way that it poses an existential threat to every human on Earth. So we know that if we were to make the month of April Climate Action Month, we'd be able to reach more Manitobans. And I think at the end of the day, what we want to do is educate Manitobans on the fact that our climate is changing, that we have tools available to help slow down that change. And, with Manitoba Hydro, we're the green province, but we could always do better. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, our NDP government's commitment to our great province's health includes that of our land, of our skies, and our waterways. It's no question that frontline workers such as nurses, doctors, pharmacists, and more can see the direct impact that climate change is having on their patients' health. Can my colleague for St. Boniface share more about the connection between climate action, community health, and planetary health?
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Well, I thank the member for Radisson for that question. That's an excellent question. Obviously, in Manitoba, we have a great, great access to not only green spaces, but great access to blue spaces as well, lakes, rivers, streams, etc. Manitoba has 100,000 lakes, and we know that Manitobans love to go to the lake. We love to fish, we love to harvest, we love to spend time on the land. We also love to spend time in our provincial parks. And when we spend time outside with our families, when we spend time on the land, we know that that has a very positive impact on our mental health. We've now just made access to all provincial parks in Manitoba for the next year free, so I encourage all Manitobans to get out there and
Member's time
breathe
has
some clean air.
expired. The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. How would Bill 218 enable the Canoe government to turn around its woeful record on environmental stewardship?
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Well, I'd like to thank the member for his colorful question. Definitely is a colorful question. So, just the other day, we announced a new provincial park, the LeMay Forest, which I think is great news. We're working with the Seal River Alliance right now to preserve 8% of Manitoba for generations to come, the Seal River watershed. We're moving forward in replacing turbines at Pointe du Bois, thus making them more efficient and creating more green hydroelectric power in Manitoba. And, and we're building Canada. We're helping build Canada. We're going to be sending 50 megawatts of green electric power up north to Nunavut. And we're going to keep on building 600 megawatts of green wind power, more than the negative 1 megawatt.
Member's time has expired. The honourable member for Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, yesterday the member for St. Boniface and I joined community members to witness the sacred fire ceremony at the LeMay Forest grounds, the final resting place of countless women and children. I'd like to take this opportunity to shine a light on the labour and advocacy of land protectors like the member for Seine River and the many who kept the LeMay fire burning. How will Climate Action Month work towards justice for those who've been defending this land for time immemorial?
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Well, first of all, I want to take a few moments to recognize the excellent advocacy work that was done on the LeMay Forest for so many months and years. The firekeepers have been there since December. The MLA from Seine River did an incredible work supporting the community. And our premier just a week ago announced that LeMay Forest will become a provincial park. We have a goal, 30 by 30, protecting 30% of the land in Manitoba for future generations. That's our goal. And in fact, working on the Seal River watershed is going to help us get that much closer to that goal. And we're a listening government. It's by listening to everyone that we're going to combat climate change. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable member for Lakeside.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question to the member from St. Boniface would be, how would this bill allow the NDP government to prevent further catastrophic sewage leaks from Winnipeg sewer lines?
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
I'd like to thank that member for that interesting infrastructure question. In Budget 2025, we announced that we're going to invest in $3.7 billion of infrastructure work here in Manitoba. And in doing that work, we're going to ensure that that work is climate resilient, is green. We're going to try to encourage as many builders to engage in geothermal power, heating and cooling. And at the end of the day, not only are we a listening government, but we're a science-based government. So we're going to listen to the experts in trying to build a better Manitoba for futures to come, but also a climate change resilient Manitoba. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member for Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, to switch gears a little bit, because the member for St. Boniface does such a great job in this chamber, reminding us that we are a bilingual legislature. Honorable Président, je demande au notre député de St. Boniface de nous en dire davantage sur ce qui l'a inspiré à formuler à ce projet de loi.
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Merci, l'honorable président, et j'aimerais remercier la députée de Radisson pour cette excellente question. En tant qu'éducateur de longue date, je sais que quand les Manitobains et les Manitobaines font face à un défi, une des premières étapes, c'est de s'éduquer sur quel est le défi et comment agir. Alors, notre gouvernement, qui écoute aux experts, qui écoute au Manitobain est en mesure d'agir avec 3,7 milliards d'investissements en infrastructure ici au Manitoba pour s'assurer qu'on développe une économie qui est plus verte avec 600 mégawatts de pouvoir à travers des éoliennes qu'on va bâtir à travers le Manitoba. Et d'ailleurs, je suis très fier de dire que ces nouvelles éoliennes vont être en partenariat avec des communautés
Your
autochtones.
time has expired. The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. How do the members on the other side of the House take this bill seriously, let alone expect Manitobans to do so, in light of the NDP's environmental failures over the years?
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Well, I'd like to, thank the member opposite for more colorful questions, such as the one he's just posed. In fact, Manitoba Hydro, the green electric grid that we rely on here in Manitoba, was built by our government. In fact, the members opposite, their governments over the years have built zero megawatts of green electric power here in Manitoba. So we've built all of it because we've listened to Manitobans, we've listened to what their priorities are. We know that Manitobans want clean, reliable power, and now we're going to ship 50 megawatts of that green electric power up north to Nunavut. So I'm not sure exactly what the opposite member is talking about, but we're going to keep on
His time has
building a green
expired.
Manitoba.
And the time for questions has expired. The floor is now open for debate. The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Bill 218 to proclaim the month of April every year as Climate Action Month is an interesting one, mostly because while it sounds noble, there doesn't seem to be any point in adopting it, as Manitoba, like the rest of the world, marks and celebrates Earth Day every April. And in fact, Honourable Speaker, today is Earth Day, and I'd like to wish everyone in this House and everyone across the province a happy Earth Day.
Oh, thanks.
It's also interesting that this bill, the Climate Action Month Act, has been brought forward by a member of the NDP, a party that has a horrible record when it comes to so-called action for the environment. It's the NDP, after all, that has been in government in this province during two of the most severe spills of raw sewage into the Red River in Winnipeg. In September 2002 from the North End Water Pollution Control Centre, and again just over a year ago from a broken pipe at the Fort Garry Bridge. It's the NDP also that was in government in Manitoba when zebra mussels made their invasion to this province many years ago, all while the NDP under then Premier Greg Selinger and his Environment Minister did nothing at all to try to stop it. Pardon me then, Honourable Speaker, if I have difficulty taking the NDP's so-called climate action bill seriously. Earth Day itself, however, is an occasion, and as I mentioned, long celebrated in Manitoba and worldwide, that we should and do take seriously, as we do in this province. We can take pride in our support for Earth Day every April. This year, the Earth Day theme is Our Power, Our Planet, with a focus on moving the planet to renewable energy sources and on tripling the global generation of clean electricity by the year 2030. This is about cutting greenhouse gas emissions, boosting air quality, and advancing sustainable development around the world. We, on this side of the House, definitely take environmental stewardship seriously in Manitoba, which is among the world's most beautiful and ecologically diverse places. We are a province with abundant resources and natural beauty, and Earth Day is a great opportunity to reflect on the important protection of our province's natural aesthetics and ecosystems that we need to take part in for Manitobans in the future. We will protect Manitoba with investments in clean energy and with strategic conservation initiatives, among other measures, so generations to come can appreciate the same resources and beauty that we do today. Considering then all the positives and benefits surrounding Earth Day every year, it appears the point of the NDP's proposed Climate Action Month has to be much better explained than it has been in this chamber today. In fact, really the only kind of NDP action on environment that I'm aware of is failure and irresponsibility. We certainly don't want more of either of those. This NDP's government's failure on the environmental front were clear a little over a year ago when the worst sewage spill in Winnipeg in a generation occurred and 230 million litres of untreated wastewater flowed from malfunctioning pipes into the Red River at the Fort Garry Bridge. The quantity of sewage that flowed into the river in that incident in early 2024 would fill more than 90 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And that was the largest sewage spill in Winnipeg since September 2002, when a malfunction at the North End Water Pollution Control Centre, also while the NDP were in government, sent 427 million litres of untreated sewage into the Red River. So, Honourable Speaker, that is a few of the failures I mentioned moments ago. Now we can look at the other issue I mentioned, the NDP's irresponsibility on the environment. When that spill of sewage into the Red River occurred last year, this NDP Premier and Minister of Environment and Climate Change, who is now the Minister of Education and Childhood Learning, utterly failed in their responsibility to adequately address it, immediately afterward and since it happened. This Premier and his NDP government vacated their responsibility as well in their lack of proper and effective notification of affected municipalities and Indigenous communities when that disastrous spill early last year was discovered. Manitobans must be kept informed as soon as possible of any dangerous spills of untreated wastewater and of releases of other pollutants, and in cases of imminent releases of pollutants. But the NDP, with all of its irresponsibility, has failed them. A separate NDP government bill before this House is aimed at this same government's failures on the environment, but it appears to be too little and too late. Honourable Speaker, because of the NDP's record of utter failures on environment and climate-related action, our side of this House finds it difficult to take an NDP climate action bill seriously. And there is questionable purpose in proclaiming a Climate Action Month when Earth Day falls during the same month. Honourable Speaker, I'd now like to give some time to my other colleagues to speak on this issue. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank you for the opportunity to stand today in the chamber and talk about protecting our environment. And I thank the member opposite for encouraging Manitobans to protect our environment around us. I remember celebrating Earth Day years ago as a young man, 30-some, almost 40 years ago, and celebrating the very first Earth Day celebration as a member of my band, where we sang a song by Alabama, and the tune, I don't remember the name of the song, but the words in it were, "Let's keep that blue up above us, and let's keep that green on the ground." And to this day, Honourable Speaker...
Order, please. When this matter is again before the House, the honourable member will have 9 minutes remaining. The hour is now 11 a.m., time for private members' resolutions. The resolution before us this morning is the resolution on new schools brought forward by the honourable member for Transcona. The honourable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, seconded by the MLA for Lagimodiere, therefore be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba be urged to support the provincial government's efforts with the construction of 11 new schools across the province.
Been moved by the honourable member for Transcona, seconded by the honourable member for Lagimodiere, that therefore be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba be urged to support the provincial government's efforts with the construction of 11 new schools across the province. The honourable member for Transcona.
Honourable Speaker, as a former educator, it is an absolute privilege to be able to rise in the House today, especially for my first private member's resolution, new schools. As an educator, it is always a joy to be able to stand behind our students and support them on their journey. I was fortunate enough to work in schools from kindergarten all the way up to grade 12. It is an incredible experience watching students come into school for the first time when they start kindergarten. They are full of wonder and not sure what to expect. It is exciting to see them learn about what it means to be a student, and they start to understand how they fit into this world. Then they progress through the grades and start to understand and learn about what is important to them and who they want to be. It is always a proud moment to watch students receive their diploma at graduation and know the journey they have gone through to get to that moment. It is one of the ultimate experiences to be able to see children grow into wonderful young adults and to be a part of their learning and development. As educators, our job is to support our youth during their most vulnerable and formative years. And I, along with many other educators on this side of the House, are always proud to stand here and tell Manitobans just how much we support them. And this government has already made such incredible progress in rebuilding our education system after cuts by the former PC failed government. Every day we are proud to get up here and say that it is only after 1.5 years of being in government we've managed to hire 630 new educators. And with that, I just want to say, after 7.5 years of cuts, mismanagement, and ignorance from the members opposite about just how important education is, I'm so proud to be part of a government that truly cares about our children. And you know what the members opposite did instead of making sure that students had the resources they needed? They cut. They left Manitoban educators and students in a big hole with less resources to support our education system. In fact, they cut core operating funding for education by $36 million over 3 years. For 28 of the 37 school divisions in Manitoba, funding was cut from where it was 3 years before the PCs took office. In 15 school divisions, funding was cut by 15 to 20%. That is unacceptable. They had no vision or thought about what our students needed. As an educator, I stand here feeling frustrated with the former PC government and their failures. Every day, I saw just how important it was for us to continue to fund every education, and was continually disheartened to see what they were doing to the future generation of our province. Their funding cuts had real-life consequences that left people without the resources they needed to thrive. Staff members were cut, class sizes were larger, resources were stretched thin. It was impacting students, teachers, school staff, and caregivers. But on this side of the House, we are proud to keep on making progress to reverse the damage they've done to our education system. Earlier this year, we announced that we'll be creating a new K-8 school in Devonshire Park that will address the 11% student growth in the River East Transcona School Division. And that's the kind of government we are. And I'm so happy to see that one of these schools will serve the students in my constituency. But we are not stopping there. There will be a total of 11 new schools added across the province. It is an exciting time in our province for education. I was an administrator in a school that had undergone renovations. The joy on the faces of the students, teachers, and caregivers when they walked into that new classroom is one I will never forget. The planning and consultation that we underwent to ensure that everything was done to enhance the learning space was so worth it. Now, to be able to build accessible schools from the ground up is truly exciting. While they were cutting the jobs of educators, we've been building them up. And our government made sure to help every child that comes into our schools. I'm so proud of our previous Minister for Education and Early Childhood Learning, Nello Ultimate. He had a vision for the future of our province, where no child will be hungry and sit through a full day of learning. He understood that if we are to make sure every child thrives when they're at school, their day needs to start with a full stomach. As the new MLA for Transcona, I will be sure to honor the memory and life's work of my predecessor, the late Honourable Nello Ultimate. And while the members opposite shamefully tried to make sure that students were being fed was not a priority, we stood strong and gave kids educators, and parents the resources they needed. And that includes building the 11 new schools that Manitobans need. Instead of cutting 13 librarian positions in the River East Transcona School Division, or pledging to build 9 schools that they never budgeted for, like the members opposite did, we are doing things the right way. And that includes reducing distractions in classrooms by limiting the use of cell phones. When it comes to education in this province, it is also important to remember just how much danger the members opposite put kids in. I hope everyone here remembers their absolutely egregious bill, Bill 64. This bill would have done extreme harm to education in Manitoba, and as an educator, I was appalled to see what they were trying to do to our students. To name just a few things that they were trying to do, which included impacting teachers' ability to conduct free and fair bargaining, and cutting all the English language school boards across the province and combining them, this bill had educators in Manitoba outraged. That bill was an affront to the principles of public education in our province, and I'm glad to see that it was never passed. I attended a community forum on Bill 64 to ask questions about how this bill would impact our students in our schools. While attending the community forums, it was plain to see that when questions were asked about Bill 64 and some of the ramifications, they had no answers. Even some of their so-called experts who were facilitating the various groups were unable to answer the basic questions. And while they were neglecting to build the new schools that our children needed to cut cap sizes on classes, we made sure we kept fighting for Manitoban. We are doing this by building 11 new schools. While we are looking out for our children, I would like to take a trip down memory lane. The member from Fort White put out an alarming ad that was more than just an attack on education, but an attack on the vulnerable and marginalized youth in our schools. This member said he would stand up for parental rights, a dog whistle to say he would allow the targeting and discrimination of transgender and gender diverse students in schools. I am proud to stand with a government that has taken the voices of parents, youth, and community to heart. Instead of shutting down the possibilities, we must build them up. We need to open up the lines of communication. We are a listening government, and we will continue to listen and collaborate. We are adding a new financial literacy course in our grade 9 classrooms. With this addition, we are giving our youth basic financial literacy skills that will only improve their lives. I understand all too well the pressure educators can be under teaching the next generation. I am proud to be a part of a government that recognizes those unique challenges. The previous PC government did not recognize or care about the challenges of our educators. Instead, they increased class sizes, while the number of available educators plummeted. To continue protecting the kids in our schools, we're bringing in sexual abuse prevention training. No child should feel unsafe at home or in our schools. They need to be able to trust the adults in their lives. We are making sure that this is the reality for our students. With each new school, we are adding childcare facilities, ensuring families have inclusive spaces that meet the needs of all children, not just those ready for K-12. We are supporting working caregivers whose time has too often been overlooked, again, making families a priority. This government is committed to investing $700 million for the 11 new schools, ensuring that children have the spaces they need to thrive. As an educator, I know how important it is to not only have the tools students need to learn, but also the spaces that meet their needs. With more students enrolling at a rapid pace, the demand for additional education spaces will not be ignored by this government. To build a strong, resilient province, we understand the need to ensure our youth are getting the education they deserve. So, when the time comes for them to enter the workforce, ready to contribute to our provincial landscape, they have had the opportunities they needed to thrive. This government is leaving no stone unturned when it comes to making our educational spaces the best they can be. Building the confidence of our youth, encouraging them to lean on their own brain power.
Honourable members, time has expired. A question period of up to 10 minutes will be held. And questions may be addressed in the following sequence. First question be asked by a member from another party. Any subsequent questions must follow a rotation between the parties. Each independent member may ask one question, and no question or answer may exceed 45 seconds. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I would like to congratulate the member from Transcona for bringing forward her first private member's resolution here, and put a question forward to the member opposite here. Will the NDP apologize to school divisions and municipalities and families who were left scrambling when these planned schools were pulled off of the budget without warning, and then they take that and reintroduce it? Will the NDP apologize for those actions?
The Honourable Member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you for your kind words at the start. I think what we need to focus on right now is that we are building 11 new schools. We are supporting our communities. We have listened to what the province needs. We have listened to what our municipalities need, and we are building schools to make life easier for everyone.
And just as a reminder to the member to always direct your comments through the chair. The Honourable Member for St. River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our team is full of educators, and it shows by our investments. Our government values all areas of Manitoba and is making investments to meet the needs of growing communities, including by building new schools. Can the member please tell us, where will these 11 new schools be located?
The Honourable Member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And like to thank the Honourable Member from St. River. We are building a school in Devonshire Park, Prairie Point, Meadowlands, Brandon Southwest, Brandon Divisional Scolaire, Franco-Manitoban School, St. Anne, Bridgewater, Neepawa, Highland, Winnipeg Northwest, and there will also be a DSFM school in St. Boniface.
The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I would also like to congratulate the member from Transcona on their first private member's resolution you brought forward here. And I just wanted to mention one of the quotes that you said in your opening remarks is that you were a listening, one of the quotes, Honourable Speaker, that was mentioned was that they are a listening government. I'm wondering if they're listening to the screams from all of the people regarding the rising taxes that are being placed on all of the school boards and all of the ratepayers of this fine province.
The Honourable Member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it's important that we are in consultation. Our Minister of Education has done a wonderful job of working with our school divisions, of talking with our school divisions, of listening. We have collaborated as a team. We collaborate within our party with...
Order, please. The Honourable Member for St. River and the Honourable Member for Brandon West will come to order. I can't hear what's being said. The Honourable Member for Transcona.
We are working across our departments to ensure that we are looking at the whole systems so that all needs are being taken care of.
The Honourable Members will quit hollering back and forth at each other. The Honourable Member for Transcona. Order, please. Order, please. The Honourable Member for Red River North and the Honourable Member for St. River will come to order. The Honourable Member for Transcona.
Thank you. As I said, we have been working together as a team. All our ministers work together to ensure that we are looking at the
First
whole
time has
supports.
expired. The Honourable Member for St. River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitobans can be proud of their government because we're upstanders and we're always going to stick up for you. When the PCs were in office, they scrapped small class size legislation, cut education funding. Our government's taking a different approach by making robust funding investments and building new schools. Can the member explain how will these new schools keep these class sizes small?
The honourable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for Seine River for asking that question. Honestly, it was a scary time under the PC government. We did not know what was coming next. We had no idea where the cuts were going to be. So adding these new schools, this is going to make life so much easier for teachers, for students, for caregivers. There's lots that happen in classrooms, and this just adds to the creativity, and it adds to the supports, and it adds to the one-on-one support students can get from the teachers in the classroom.
The honourable member for Agassiz.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I just want to ask the member, going back to the list that she read out earlier of the schools and the projects that are coming forward, is that a prioritized list? And can she tell me specifically when the ground is going to break for the Neepawa School?
The honourable member for Transcona.
As I say, our government is a build government. We are focusing on the future of the entire province. We will focus on the entire province, not just one area, and our focus is to ensure that everyone is supported across the province.
The honourable member for Seine River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitobans can count on our government to build. Unlike the PCs who tear everything down every chance they get. The previous PC government misled Manitobans by claiming they would build 9 new schools without bothering to budget for them. Our government is taking a different approach. Can the member explain how will these 11 new schools be funded?
The honourable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yes, we went to the Treasury Board and we put it in our budget because we prioritize Manitobans. We prioritize education. That is an important thing. That is important to us, ensuring our youth are taken care of. So we are using government dollars, and these schools will be owned by the public.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I have a very simple question here for the member opposite who brought this resolution forward. The fact that Manitoba taxpayers are paying double-digit increases in the school boards and the areas that are being underfunded by this government, how much more is the 2-year delay that this government has put on the building of schools now costing the taxpayers through this tax government?
Here.
The honourable member for Transcona.
Well, it's interesting. I wasn't a math teacher, but we could not have been delaying things by 2 years if we've only been in power for 1.5 years. So that would be a bit of a question for me. So I think, again, just getting back to, we are working across our departments to ensure that we're using that wraparound effect, to ensure that everyone is taken care of and all aspects of their lives are being taken care of. We are adding more supports and services all across our departments, from healthcare to education. We are building things up in this province. We are not tearing them down. We are focused on the future. We are focused on ensuring that Manitobans have all they need to live their best lives.
The honourable member for Seine River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our government respects teachers, students, staff, parents, community. And because of that, in just 1 year in office, our government has rolled out a universal nutrition program. We banned cell phones. We invested in small class sizes. We added 630 new educators, and we made strong investments in education funding, something that didn't happen under this government. I was a frontline teacher. I can attest to that fact. Can the member tell us how this differs from the PC's approach to education, which was to cut and divide?
The honourable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member from Seine River. Again, I would agree with the Honourable Member from Seine River. Education was a scary time for 7.5 years. We walked into our buildings every day not knowing what we were going to face, not knowing how the impact that was also going to impact our students. We are focused on the best for our kids. We want them well fed, we want them well taken care of, we want them educated in all aspects of life. That's why we're also bringing in the literacy program, financial literacy in grade 9, and we're also ensuring that students, and we are bringing in areas to educate
Members'
them.
time has expired and the time for questions is also expired. The floor is open for debate. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Here, here. Attaboy. Here, here. Here, here.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's always a privilege to stand in the House and talk about bills or resolutions or anything that is brought forward and put some honest words on the record.
Yeah.
Some indicators that Manitobans don't always get to hear with the hype from this government, and really sad times this last year and a half for Manitobans, and particularly in the education world. You know, when I look at what's happened on year over year taxes regarding school taxes and rising costs for families. We've seen double-digit tax increases year over year, the last 2 years that this government has been in power. And that is certainly affecting middle and income families and those that struggle to make ends meet. Increasing those taxes disproportionately for individuals who are just trying to make the ends meet and trying to feed their family. It's no wonder that this NDP government had to start a nutrition program. It's because families can't afford to eat at home based on the taxes and the costs that keep going up under this government. And I know that there's the touting of new educators that have been hired, but nothing about the number of people that are abandoning the profession under this NDP government because they're not getting the supports that they need and the work that is required for each of these individuals in their classrooms. So much like the healthcare profession that's struggling under this minister and under this government, educators are finding the same impacts, and we're hearing it constantly. Seeing double-digit increases, the member from Seine River talked about making sure that the students are well fed, but that's coming through the taxes placed on each and every one of the ratepayers within this province. And I'll remind this government, who loves to tax and spend and tax and spend and then tax some more and spend some more, that comes out of the ratepayer's pocket, and there is only one ratepayer, whether it's provincial taxes, whether it's school board taxes, whether it's municipal taxes. They all come down to the one person that has to pay it, or the one individual, and that's hurting Manitobans. I know on this side of the House, we support individuals and we support the growth of our economy, which pays for a lot of this, not making individuals pay for it out of their pocket and effectively breaking them and making sure that they are reliant on the government for all of the help that they can get. This year, the NDP plan on adding $182 million more in taxes across the board in Manitoba here. That is unbelievable amount of tax increases that is happening here. And really, everyday Manitobans are the ones that have to pay for this. They're the ones that have to struggle. They're the ones that have to take on second or third jobs to try and support their families, try and support their kids outside of school in any of the sports or extracurricular activity that they're being involved in. It's not cheap raising a family nowadays. And I know up in Thompson and up in the north area, it's particularly expensive because of the cost of northern living, and making sure that those kids are taken care of in there. And more people are struggling under this government, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We're looking at the NDP failed to fund the schools that were already put into place by the PC government. That is going to cost Manitobans millions of dollars more. We're looking at additional costs for infrastructure, the supply chain, as the NDP government continues to cut different areas and different laws, including the 1-to-1 ratio that's been imposed. It's going to cost much more to have these professionals come out here and work on these infrastructure builds, whether it be electrical trades, whether it be carpenters, some of the professionals that are in there in the plumbing trade. They're going to have twice as many people because they're not going to have, or they're not allowed to have their 2 apprentices with them. And so double the costs. This is going to cost all of the ratepayers, including all of us in here. And to me, that's quite atrocious to look at that and know that this government should have and could have done much better by continuing the PC plan to build those schools. And if they want to take the credit for it, go ahead, make your media. They can make their media splashes. They can go out and do their interviews. But Manitobans that follow this know that this was a PC plan. And once again, another time that this NDP government has taken the credit for the work done by this government. I'm a year and a half that the NDP have been in power, and I'm wondering when they'll start having some of their own announcements coming forward. I'm hoping it's fairly soon, because 18 months is quite a time to be in power without any new announcements, and just continuing to percolate the PC announcements up to the top, and we know the cream rises to the top, and so we're happy over here to be the cream that continues to rise and helps you down the road and make your announcements. We're looking at the costs that school divisions keep coming to us with each year and saying, look, our schools are starting to have problems, especially in the last year and a half. Our critical infrastructure is really starting to need some improvements. And again, this hasn't been funded by this government, Honourable Deputy Speaker. There's huge needs across the province, and I can speak in Brandon alone, where there's probably 10 or 12 schools that are waiting for major infrastructure upgrades that they put on last year and again this year, and they're not hearing great things, and it's just hold off, a few more years while we're in government. Allow us to allow you to raise taxes a little bit further on your ratepayers. We'll keep allowing you to do that so that we can fund that millions of dollars that we haven't come to the table with, and we'll continue to do that, because that's the method of the NDP government, is to tax and more tax. It's no wonder that in past years our costs have continued to rise exponentially under this government. And let's look at even how this government is impacting people that want to enjoy their recreation time. People that have worked very hard, scraped together their nickels and dimes and bought a cottage or a cabin somewhere. And now, I'll use Victoria Beach as an example. This year, they're going to see their tax bill go from $641 to $1,621. And that's just absolutely asinine, Deputy Speaker. It's unbelievable that people that want to enjoy their recreation time, their time with family, their time away to decompress, now they have to shell out another $1,000 under this NDP government, who continues the double-digit increases. So, wrapping up, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I know that this government wants to take the credit where credit isn't due, but you know, I'm just hoping that they come to their senses and cut.
And the member's time has expired. The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'm really happy to be here today, and you know, I'll have to say my blood was boiling during the end of that speech. We were there. I was there for 30 years in the classroom, and I can tell you the difference from the last 7 years to the previous 23. It's night and day. And I know this, I lived it, my colleagues lived it, my community lived it. And to sit here and talk about, oh, it's all right, great ideas. My question through you to them, why didn't they build them? Why did nothing happen? Why were we sitting there as teachers waiting for them to make a move, not only on wages, but on infrastructure? Stand here and say, oh, these are all great ideas. Great ideas. It's like you're sitting at a coffee shop, drawing on the back of the napkin all the things you're going to do, but nothing happened. Nothing. So, we're here, we're gathering on a moment of transformation. After years of uncertainty, of cuts, neglect, we have turned a page. And now together we write a new chapter. One rooted in hope, in equity, in the firm belief that education is the single greatest investment we can make in our future. Manitobans want their government to be more than a funder of education. They want a true partner. A government that listens, a government that lifts, a government that leads. For too long, they did not have that. Les Manitobains veulent que leur gouvernement provincial soit un véritable partenaire dans l'éducation de leurs enfants. Mais pas un gouvernement qui coupe, pas un gouvernement qui ignore, mais un gouvernement qui bâtit. For 7.5 years, the PC government dismantled what so many educators, families, and communities had worked so hard to build. They slashed school funding. They abandoned their responsibility to students. They turned their backs on me, on teachers. They let class sizes spiral out of control. They took valuable support away from students who needed it most. They left school divisions to make impossible choices, cut programs, fire educators, or go into deficit. That is their legacy. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est différent. Nous avons changé de cap. Un nouveau gouvernement qui est en place. Un gouvernement NPD qui croit que l'éducation est un droit et non pas un privilège. We are taking action, real action. We have already announced the construction of 11 brand new schools across Manitoba, in Winnipeg, Brandon, St. Anne, Neepawa, and beyond. Each of these schools will reduce class sizes, include childcare spaces, and respond to the real needs of growing communities. We are investing over $700 million into our education system, not just to build new schools, but to maintain the ones we have, to make sure that every student, from kindergarten to graduation, learns in an environment that is safe, modern, and inspiring. Ce n'est pas seulement un investissement dans les briques et du ciment. C'est un investissement dans l'avenir de chaque enfant manitobain. Just look at what we've done in our first year. We've hired over 630 new educators. We banned cell phones in classrooms so students can focus. We implemented mandatory sexual abuse prevention training. We increased school funding by $67 million to respond to enrollment growth. We launched a universal school nutrition program so no child learns on an empty stomach. These are not small steps. This is not nothing. These are transformational. Aucun enfant au Manitoba ne devrait avoir faim en apprenant. Chaque estomac plein est un esprit prêt à réussir. We even introduced Nello's Law because we believe so deeply in school nutrition that we made it permanent. No future government can take that away, not on our watch. We also expanded $10 a day childcare to include holidays and weekends, saving families thousands of dollars each year. Where were they on that? Because we know that when we make life better for parents, we make life better for children. We know education doesn't just happen in classroom. It happens when families are supported, communities are strong, and every child feels seen. Nous investissons dans chaque élève, dans chaque enseignant, dans chaque salle de classe, parce que nous croyons en leur potentiel. We are bringing back dignity to the teaching profession. We are putting tools back in the hands of students. We are building schools, hiring educators, and empowering communities. And we are doing all of this facing the shadow left by the previous government. Let me remind you what they actually did. They cut funding by $36 million over 3 years. They reduced the province share of school operating costs. They gutted supports. They gutted them. I taught those kids without the supports. They weren't there, and they were before. So how did that happen? They eliminated programs that served thousands. They proposed Bill 64, a law that would have scrapped every English language school board and centralized power in the Premier's office. I think it's been called the worst proposed bill ever. Et pendant qu'ils prétendaient moderniser l'éducation, ils ont essayé de supprimer la démocratie scolaire locale. C'était inacceptable, et nous l'avons arrêté. They said they wanted better outcomes, but they never listened to the people who know education best. Teachers, parents, and students themselves. We listened, we acted. We believe that education is how we build a fairer, stronger society. We believe that the child in a small town should have the same opportunities as the child in suburban Winnipeg. We believe in the freedom to be who you are, that every student, whether they're from the LGBTQSIA community, Indigenous communities, deserve a school where they feel safe, respected, and valued. Lorsque les PC ont mené une campagne sur les soi-disant droits parentaux, ils ont mis en danger les élèves les plus vulnérables. Nous avons dit non. Nous avons choisi l'espoir plutôt que la haine. We chose hope instead of hate. Friends, rebuilding takes time, but we are doing the work. With every school built, every educator hired, every meal served, every student supported, we are providing that public education is worth fighting for. Because we are not just building schools, we are building futures. So today, I ask you, stand and stay with us. Continue walking with us on this journey. Speak up, show up, support your local schools, celebrate the educators who make a difference every day. Ensemble, nous pouvons assurer un avenir où chaque enfant reçoit les outils pour réussir, où l'éducation est forte, inclusive et publique, where education is strong, inclusive, and public. Because when we invest in our children, we are securing the future today. Thank you. Merci. Let's keep building together.
Before I move on to the next speaker, I'll just remind all speakers that comments should come through the chair. The honourable member for Agassiz.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I'm happy to rise today and put a few words on the record in relation to the private member's resolution put forward today by the member from Transcona. One thing that stands out in the statement I just heard is that we did nothing. The PC government did nothing for education, and that is absolutely wrong. What we did do is we built 14 schools, and I was present at one of those openings. So just to straighten out and put some facts on the record, we built 14 new schools. And I also want to put a shout out to the teachers and the educators that staff our schools across Manitoba. I have many friends in the classrooms teaching young people, and I want to say that they do a phenomenal job. And it's not always an easy job in today's world. They educate our young ones and bring forward many success stories from the classroom. I want to thank the superintendents as well as the many school board members who have to make decisions and sit around the table and look at budgets and classroom sizes and have to determine and make some tough calls when the decisions have to be made. Again, not another easy task, but one that has to be done. And I just want to say a thank you and a shout out to those board members who are tasked with those decisions. Education, we know, is a crucial for the development of our province, and it's important of education and the role of new schools in shaping our future. It's the foundation which we build our communities on or around. It fosters new growth, innovation, and equality. It empowers young people of all ages to pursue their dreams and equips them with the knowledge and skills necessary to navigate in an ever-changing world. In our province, we're fortunate to see many schools that are not merely buildings, they're beacons of hope and opportunity. They provide safe, nurturing environments where children can learn, explore, and develop their potential. New schools bring fresh ideas, innovative teaching methods, and a commitment to inclusivity, and they're designed to cater to the diverse needs of our students, ensuring that every child has access to quality education. I have heard from many of those that are in the classrooms. Teachers do not have the supports in place for the students that are in their classrooms. They're tired and exhausted. They need more assistance in that. And they're not only tired they're tired of the NDP government and their tax hikes and what this is going to cost us, the ratepayers here across Manitoba. I'm going to redirect for just a moment and reflect on my own journey and take this in a little bit of a different direction on a personal note. My family home where I grew up was actually a school at one time. My parents purchased a one classroom home, or school rather, sorry, thank you. Which was likely shut down by the NDP some years ago. But it was, they purchased this school, moved it to the farm, where they obviously renovated it, but growing up, interesting things that were still within the home. When it was a school, we kept the desks, so some of these older desks were there. There was chalkboards and novels. So growing up, it was always an inspiration to, you know, pull out the chalkboards that were once in place, read from those novels where students would be learning how to read at a very young age. And it just always created some fun memories. Even now, going back to my family home, there's still pieces of chalkboards hidden away and a desk that still stands. Where I was going with this, of course, is in relation to new schools. And, you know, preserving some of that history. The essence of education lies not just in the classrooms, but also in the stories and experiences that shape us. By integrating the lessons of the past with the promise for the future, we can create a more vibrant educational landscape. As we talk about new schools, I must talk about the schools within my constituency of Agassiz. There are 4 school divisions. Not all schools within the divisions are within the boundaries of Agassiz, but we do take in 4 different divisions, and each of those having very unique needs. We have Pine Creek School Division. It has 13 schools, 5 elementary, 2 high schools, 6 Hatarian colony schools. Prairie Spirit School Division has 6 schools, 4 colony schools, 1 elementary, 1 collegiate. Beautiful Plains School Division is one of the largest school divisions, and it is within, all schools are within the Agassiz boundaries. It has 14 schools, 77 colony schools, 4 elementary, 1 middle year, and 2 collegiates. And we have Turtle River School Division. It has 3 schools. And each of those divisions, like I mentioned, have unique needs. And some of those specifically are the colonies, which again, they have unique classrooms as well as teaching. I've attended many of those colonies for I Love to Read Month, as well as many of the schools across Agassiz. I know in some of these schools that I have visited, they have expanded their classrooms to be outside in the hallways, in the libraries. They've had to transform some of their lunchrooms to accommodate for these larger classes. And I know in Neepawa specifically where they are bursting at the seams. And I know that there is Neepawa is in the queue for a new school, and I just hope that this NDP pull through on that and don't cut that. It was our government that announced that initially in I believe it was 2023 that announcement went out, but the NDP had cut that. And the school, cutting many of these schools that they slashed also impacted the availability for childcare. It would be interesting to learn what those numbers were, the childcare spaces that were eliminated with that. You know, my member from Brandon West was talking about the increase in tax hikes. And again, this is a time when families are really struggling here across our province, whether it's buying groceries, paying rent. We are all struggling. And what this NDP has done is increase the taxes right across our province. You know, the Winnipeg School Division is seeing an increase of 15%. St. James is 11.85%. Pembina Trails, 13.63%. Louis Riel is seeing an increase of over 16%. You know, the delay tactics that the NDP did have not only exasperated the cost of these new bills, but it's also increasing the taxes that Manitobans are going to have to face. I'm sure that we can all agree on one thing, and that education is a collaborative responsibility. It requires support of families, communities, governments, and together we can advocate for the resources and policies that are needed to enhance our schools, to ensure that every child has the opportunity to succeed. And please, let's, for just another moment here, let's celebrate the importance of education and the schools across our province. Be inspired by the legacy of learning that shapes our lives, and let us commit to building a brighter future for many more generations to come. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It is an honor to rise in the House today to put a few words on the record in support of this important resolution, building new schools. Our government is investing in the future of Manitoba by investing in our children. As a government, we know that one of the most important responsibilities we have is to ensure every child in Manitoba gets a strong start in life. And that strong starts with education. We are building new schools across the province to ensure every child has a space, support, and resources they need to learn, grow, and thrive. As part of Budget 2025, our government is making a record-breaking investment of $3.7 billion in capital projects. These investments are not just about infrastructure, they are about shaping the future of our province. We are proud to be building 11 new schools across Manitoba. There are necessary investments that will support our growing population and ensure the next generation has the resources they need to thrive in the life. Honourable Speaker, we know that education is foundation on which strong communities are built. It is the backbone of our healthy society and growing economy. By investing in education today, we are investing in the future of our children, in the success of our province. This is why the resolution before us today is so important. It speaks to the vision and commitment that our government has toward the long-term well-being of our communities. Our government is committed to making Manitoba a place where families want to live, work, and raise their children. These new schools will help address capacity needs now and into the future, helping kids have a smaller class size and get the attention they deserve. We are listening to Manitobans and delivering on what mattered most to them. Honourable Speaker, let me share where these new schools are going. In River East Transcona, we are building a Devonshire Park School. In Pembina Trail, Prairie Point School and Bridgewater Lake School are on the way. Sabinoaks will see addition of Meadowland School and Highline Point School. In Brandon, we are building Brandon Southwest School along with a brand new French language school. And also new French language school in Winnipeg. A high school in northwest corner of Winnipeg. In Seine River, we are building St. Anne Regional High School. And in Beautiful Plains, we are proud to be adding the Nipawa Regional High School. These schools are being built in neighborhoods where young families are growing, where students' populations are increasing. We have heard from the parents, teachers, and the community leaders, and we are delivering on what they have told us. Honourable Speaker, as the Minister of Public Service Delivery, I'm happy to be working alongside the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning in delivering on these new 11 schools. I'm proud to be part of the government that's listening to Manitobans, and we know Manitobans will never forget how the previous PC government chose to cut. We have taken a different approach. Where they cut, we build. As the Minister of Public Service Delivery, I am committed to delivering on our goals to build a stronger Manitoba. Honourable Speaker, we are committed to continuing to invest in our children, our education system, and the future of a great province by putting Manitobans first. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Springfield-Rochelle.
I'd like to start my comments by referencing the myth machine that we just heard speaking, where all kinds of myths are being put on the record, but I guess that is kind of part of of this whole debating process on private members' resolutions and bills. When you hear members of the NDP get up and put one myth after the other, in fact, it's gotten so extreme that it's just to the point of being just ludicrous. I heard the member from Brandon East, the minister, get himself so caught up in his own verbiage and his own myth making that it just gets extreme. And we know that there were many schools that were built after the dire and dark days of the NDP. There were many schools that were built, and I was beneficiary. We had that beautiful high school. It seems to raise a lot of excitement. I'm glad to see that the lazy socialists across the way finally woke up. Good to hear that they finally woke up, and now they all seem to have found their voices. Now, there they go. There they go. They finally found I woke them up. I woke them up from their daydreaming and their myth-making that they love. Finally, they are awake and listening to some truth. There were all these beautiful schools that were finally built on the Conservatives, and those that we didn't get done, first of all, they canceled them all, and now they're going to build them all. And that's kind of, I think it was their premier who said, it's like a pickerel on the dock. They're flopping around. First they canceled all the schools we were going to build. Now they're going to build some of the schools we're going to build. And thankfully, we had a progressive Conservative government that believed in building new schools. And we're seeing the benefit of that. However, after all the major funding we did of education, and we increased funding substantially, you can go back and fact check it, not the myth-making machine we see across the way from my good friends, the lazy socialists across the way. We can see that under them, what we are seeing is unbelievably huge tax increases on ordinary, hard-working Manitobans, on families. They are allowing taxes to go up exponentially. In fact, as high, well, the member for Brandon East now seems to have found his voice again. First, he did the whole myth-making machine thing when he got up and spoke, and now he wants another turn. And maybe he wants to get up and ask for leave if he could speak again. We denied, of course, there's only so much myth one can take from one member, and I apologize for the member from Brandon West for having to hear the member from Brandon East called out. But the member for Brandon East just spews myth, and so we have to correct the record. The amount of taxes that are being put on hard-working men and women is exceedingly difficult for families who sit around the kitchen table and have to divvy up the budget. They have to decide where they're going to put their priorities. And with a 25% tax increase, in fact, River East, Transcona alone in 1 year, this isn't because remember, the calendar year and the budget year aren't the same. For one household, the average increase will be $250 a home. Wow. That will eat into the family budget and is going to hurt families. So they have to decide, are they going to...
Order. When this matter is again before the House, the honourable member will have 6 minutes remaining. The hour being 12 p.m., this House is recessed and stands recessed until 1:30 p.m.